Okay, unfortunately, I had to close the previous session, because for some reason I didn't have access to the chat. It's bizarre because this has literally never ever happened before. But it is what it is. What can you do, right? Technology, technology, technology. Let me just update the link because unfortunately the previous link is no longer valid, and most people are going to click on the previous link and they're going to, fail to log in. Just give me a second. I'm going to get started pretty quickly. Sorry about this. This has never happened before, as I said. Yeah, it is what it is. So I was going to post the new link on LinkedIn. And please, guys, in the meantime, feel free to share the video, the live session. This is pretty important. The sort of distinction between, or the difference between PhD and postdoc is one of those big things that most PhD students especially wonder about. And I'm just trying to sort of convey those differences with the hopes that you will have more information when it comes to making decisions about whether you want to do a PhD, postdoc or not. That's an important question. So yeah, boom, good. Okay, let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to ML Done. I'm still waiting for my equipment to be delivered to my home, but in the meantime, I've got a nice webcam which seems to be working fine, and hopefully will not disappoint us over the next say 30 minutes. I'm also waiting for a nice microphone, so my voice quality is going to be much better in the future. So I just decided to have this live session because this is one of those very important topics. And most people who are doing their PhDs, they always wonder about, okay, what next after I finish my PhD? What should I do? Should I go to the industry or should I stay in academia? What is a postdoc? Should I do a postdoc or should I not? And so on and so forth. So what I'm hoping to share with you today is going to be some clear-cut hints and guidelines about what a postdoc life looks like, what's a postdoc, and how it's different to PhD. Who would do a postdoc? What should you expect while you do a postdoc? And also, probably the most important misconception about postdoc that many people sort of struggle with, or they're sort of confused about. I'm going to share that with you as well. Especially this last point, which is the most important misconception about postdoc. That's something that I wish I had known earlier on when I started my postdoc. I wish I had known that. But I don't have anyone to blame. The only one to blame would be myself, because that was my responsibility to learn about what postdoc life is and what my responsibilities are. So I want to share all of this with you guys so that hopefully you will not be making the same mistakes and you will be able to make more informed decision than I. And A to you, thank you very much. Hi, how are you doing? I'm not a professor yet, so there's a long way to professorship. So, but I appreciate the sentiment. Okay, let's get started. What is a postdoc? The number one thing that you need to know is that postdoc is not another degree. Postdoc is a job. End of story. It means that after you finish your postdoc, nobody's going to give you a diploma. Okay, it's not like I have a master's degree, a PhD degree, and a postdoc degree. Okay, that's not going to be there. It is simply and purely a job. But it's an academic job. So that's the first thing that most people don't know when they're thinking about postdoc life. And the duration of a postdoc, which is generally as long as the defined project. So usually there's a postdoc position, a professor, a private, a PI has opened up a position, um, and uh, and in that position, it could be like for 1 year, 1 year, 2 years, but it's usually 2 years to 3 years. You, as the hired postdoc, have some responsibilities, and you need to sort of ideally stay with the project for the whole duration, 2 to 3 years. But it is common and it's not unheard of for postdoc people or for postdocs to actually get out of the project, or let's say that, okay, I want to quit because I have a better opportunity, I have a better job offer, and so on and so forth. So that is pretty normal. So if you start your postdoc, it is expected from you to stay until the end, right? However, it is not unheard of if you decide to stop working on the project and go and get employed for some other job, right? So it's not unheard of. But remember that on your resume, it could look bad, sort of, because whatever opportunity in the future that you will have, your future sort of employer would look at your resume and they might ask, okay, what happened? Why did you quit after 2 months? Why did you quit after 3 months? Because that would fail to restore faith in your future, in your prospective employer, that, okay, this guy is going to stay with me. I can rely on this guy to do the job and stay with me till the end of the project. Okay? So I would take caution before I actually use this opportunity of, like leaving the job. And this is just not about just postdoc, by the way. This is just about any job that you have. Alireza217, hello. First of all, I wanted to thank you for your amazing CNN model tutorial on YouTube. It was a safe. Okay, uh, lifesaver for me. Okay, my pleasure. I'm really happy that it was helpful. I'll be working on more boot camps, by the way, but that's the subject of another session. Welcome, Alireza, anyways. So the duration of a postdoc is typically 2 to 3 years, right? However, let's say you started the postdoc. Let's say the job is for 2 years, and after the first year, you decide to call it quits, right? Then there's a vacancy in that project. So your PI would re-advertise that position. And the new postdoc who's going to be interviewing for that position will read the job ad, and they will read that, okay, this position is only for 1 year. So if you see a short time period for a postdoc position, typically it means that you're going to pick up where someone else left off the project, basically. Okay? So that's another important point. What about the postdoc salary? How does that compare to a PhD salary? Well, in some countries, a PhD is not considered as a taxable, position. Like in Ireland, for example, you don't have a salary as a PhD candidate. What you have is a stipend, and it's not taxed in Ireland, especially, which means that if you're, for example, looking for getting a citizenship at the end, the Irish citizenship, for example, the 4 years that you've done for your PhD is not going to be counted towards your citizenship. So it's as if you never existed in Ireland, right? That's interesting, but Ireland is one of the countries. It's not the only country. I know that. However, postdoc is generally would generate an income for you. It gives you a salary. So in that regard, it's different to PhD, which only has a stipend in some countries, as I said. So for postdoc, you have taxable income, which means that those years that you're doing your postdoc is counted as like towards your citizenship if you want to apply for citizenship. So that's another sort of minor point that might matter to some of you. Okay. Now, the other very important aspect of postdoc that some people don't know about is actually what are your duties as a postdoc? Because when I was doing my PhD and I would ask some of the professors, well, not the professors actually, to be fair, I would ask people who were there before me, my sort of higher let's say my colleagues who had been there before me, who were doing their postdoc at the time, I would ask them, okay, what are my responsibilities as a postdoc? And how does it differ from a PhD? Usually the answer that I would get is, it is basically PhD plus some admin work. Unfortunately, that's, in my humble opinion, could not be further away from what a postdoc life actually is. It's a minor part of postdoc life. It's not incorrect, okay? But it's only part of the picture. There's a whole other side of a postdoc experience that people need to know about. So the most important probably aspect is that as a PhD student, what you're doing is you have this sort of narrow vision, which is your research area, which is your thesis, that you're going to be focusing on and dig deeper and deeper and deeper as time goes by, until like at the end of your PhD, you become an absolute expert in that area. So it's a very narrow area, but very deep, right? That's your bubble. However, when you start your postdoc, typically you have to do multitasking. So the breadth of your focus will increase, so will the depth of your focus. So you have to do more than one thing at a time, and you have to do each one of those tasks for like in a better way, like with higher depth. Um, you might be leading certain tasks. So you will be the leader of a task, which means that the project manager will hold you responsible if that job is not done. And the answer could not be, I have a lot of things to do, so that's why I didn't I didn't finish the job that was assigned to me. Or if you are leading the task and you have a couple of people under you who you should actually hold responsible for, and if you're not doing your job right, it will reflect poorly on you as the manager of that job or as a leader of that job. Okay. And what kinds of responsibilities am I talking about? You have to lead a publication process, so you might have multiple papers under you that you're leading. You could be supervising students. Actually, you should be supervising or co-supervising students in your postdoc job. That's important. There are many postdocs who don't push their PIs to give them sort of supervision positions, or they wouldn't ask their PIs to do so. A postdoc is an opportunity for you to get a taste of what academic life actually looks like. It's not as busy as the life of a PI or an assistant professor, but it gives you an idea as to how busy it could get and what kinds of activities you'll be busy doing with. So the first difference, the breadth and depth of multitasking. Second, leading publication processes, like more than one. It could be 3, 4 publications at the same time. You do admin work, right? So you have to lead meetings, you have to manage documents, manage reports. They call them deliverables, right? So for a given task, let's say every 3 months you have to submit a report, so you have to write it down, you have to make sure the formatting is correct. So there are deadlines for them. If you don't prepare them on time, you'll be held accountable, and you have to provide explanations why you couldn't finish it. And the next one was supervision or co-supervision of PhD students or master's students. That's important. I would say the next very important difference, and I cannot stress this enough, I swear to God, this is one of those things that, like, it's very scary when you first want to do this, because, well, it is intimidating and it's grant writing. You need to learn how to write grant proposals. That's absolutely important, because, believe it or not, a part of a successful academician's life is whether you can bring money into university. It's important. I mean, we can't deny that. Um, like, if you don't know how to bring in money, if you don't know how to attract money into university through successful proposals, through successful projects and grants, you will not be an attractive candidate in the future when you want to apply for a professorship, let's say assistant professorship, and so on and so forth. So that's very important. Actually, when you apply for assistant professorship positions, or or a lecturer position, one of the selection criteria items is, have you any grants under your belt? Meaning that, do you know how to write the proposal for a grant? And were you able to successfully get the fund for it? And were you able to successfully finish the project? That's one of the things that most postdocs, when they apply for lecturer positions, usually they have to unfortunately leave that part empty, especially if they're young. But that's something that you need to definitely focus on. It is intimidating, and because of that, this is again another thing that I never knew about, and I wish I knew earlier. There are different types of grants. Some of them are for people who have just started their postdoc. They've just finished their PhD. They don't know what's what. They're trying to figure out what they want to do with their lives, and they want to learn how to write grants, but then they're afraid of the competition because there could be older postdocs with more experience than them, that it wouldn't be fair to compare them with new postdocs who have just started. So the answer is, there's a particular type of a particular part of grant, a particular kind of grant. It's called early career grants. Okay, that you can apply for, and that's suited exactly uh, for new postdocs for people who have just finished their PhD. Typically, people who have finished their PhD in the past, let's say 1 year or one and a half or 2 years. Uh, so if it's been more than, let's say, 2 years since you finished your PhD, you might not be eligible to apply, right? So that's the fair part. You'll be pitted against people with similar experience as yourself. So it would be a more fair competition. So you will have higher chances of getting accepted, getting your funding accepted, or getting your proposal accepted. And then again, for early career types of grants, usually what happens, and it's not all the time, but usually what happens is you will be the sole person, the only person on that project, which means that not only do you have to lead different tasks in your proposal that you've defined, you'll be the person who's going to be working on those tasks. Okay? As opposed to, there's another type of early grant, early career grant, and it's the case where you will be leading multiple people under you. So you can actually, you literally will advertise, let's say, postdoc positions, even, or PhD or master's positions. You will advertise these positions for the project for which you've won the grant. Because in your proposal, you might say, okay, look, I need 2 PhDs, I need 4 master's students to work on this in my team, right? So because of that, you need to advertise those positions. So you will be the main leader of the project, but you'll also be working on the project, so that means that the funding that you will get after winning the grant, a part of it would be your own salary, and some other part of it would be the salary of the people who are under you. And the last type of sort of grant that is not early career, this is for experienced PIs, is for the case where you apply for the grant, you win the grant, you will hire people to work on the project, you will not be paid a dollar. So you're just going to be the leader of the project, right? So you might say, okay, what's the advantage for me if I did that? Well, the advantage is your resume. The more grants you have under you, the more projects you finished, 0 to 100 successfully, the faster you will sort of be promoted to higher levels of academic life, or academic levels, assistant professor, associate professor, full professor, and so on and so forth. So then again, the last probably the last, maybe I could think of more, but probably the last important difference between PhD and a postdoc is the skill of learning how to write grant proposals. Okay, I'm just gonna before I continue, I want to look at the chat. Alireza, Alireza is asking a question. Can I ask what is your advice for a master's degree student AI who wants to apply for fully funded positions for PhD? What are the expectations to be considered as a suitable candidate? Um, Alireza, so what I would say is before you decide to actually start your PhD, make sure you think long and hard about it. Okay, PhD life is not for everyone, right? There are disadvantages to a PhD life, and there are advantages as well. But there are things that you need to make sure you make your peace with, and you have to make sure that they will not discourage you along the way, or they will not give you pain along the way. Um, so what I would say is first talk to people who have done their PhDs in the respective field that you're hoping to do your PhD. I don't want to disappoint you, okay? I just want to make sure that you make the right decision. So make sure that PhD is the right choice for you. That's the number one thing that I would recommend. And in terms of getting full funded positions, yeah, it's usually a matter of sending around many emails to many professors around the world. There are different things you need to consider. For example, never write the same email for all the professors. That's just wrong. And you want to stand out from the crowd. You want to read the profile of that professor and really make sure that you are the person that professor could benefit from, and make sure that that professor or that position is something that you can benefit from as a mutual sort of relationship. Make sure you're the right person for the job, and then sincerely apply for that position or contact the professor and tell the professor why you want to get that job and get that position and why you think you're the right person. If the professor has written papers that are of interest to you, maybe you can name those papers and tell him or her why you like the idea in the paper, just to give them some signs that okay, you know what you're talking about and you relate, or you know the sort of academic side, the scientific side of the project. You know, you have the knowledge. Let me put it that way. Um, and in terms of expectations to be considered as a suitable candidate, it's not really expected, but it's a good thing to have. Like if you have publications, that's a no-brainer. That would be something that would make you stand out from the crowd. It doesn't have to be necessarily an amazing publication either. It could be a survey paper. Doesn't matter. Something that tells your PI that okay, this person wants to publish. This person wants to spread the science. This person is interested in academic life. Okay. Of course, the other bits are things that you um, the other things would be the things that are obvious, like your language level. The English level has to match a certain level, because you will most likely be interviewed if you're lucky, and then in that interview you have to present yourself properly, right? So that's very important. um, there are other things, but once you look for PhD positions, you'll read the selection criteria, and you should sort of adjust yourself, your statement of purpose, and your resume according to the selection criteria. Of course, truthfully, we don't want to sort of be someone that we're not, right? Now, I'd like to move on to okay, what will you to the next part? What will you achieve after postdoc? Now, this is very important. Remember that you're most welcome, Alireza. You're most welcome. You have to remember that as a postdoc. Actually, one other thing before I get into this one, as a postdoc, this is absolutely crucial because you'll be doing more things in parallel, right? Because of that, you have to make sure that you will network with people outside your just sort of general circle of academic colleagues. So if let's say you're doing your postdoc in university X, whatever, try to connect with professors or let's say other postdocs or PhD students, academics from other universities, preferably even outside your country of residence. That is, I cannot stress that enough. It's something that most people don't do. But oh my God, it's absolutely important because that's when you broaden your network. So in the future, this could lead to more interesting, more exciting opportunities in different parts of the world. Um, just to give you an example, I got connected with Professor Carl Friston from University College London, who's the father of neuroscience, a godfather of neuroscience. Um, and the only way that happened was that I invited him to my YouTube channel, and he so kindly accepted, and I just got hooked. Meaning that I got very interested in what he was doing, which was the free energy principle, and he was so kind and so supportive. And sort of one thing led to another. I got connected with the UCL folks, the UCL team. We started writing papers together, and finally, like a few years later, here I am in Australia, Melbourne, Australia, at Monash University, working on the same area that I got interested through Professor Friston. And the professor that I'm going to be working with, Dr. Adil Razi, he's one of the leading authorities in the kind of things that I want to do, like dynamic causal modeling, brain imaging. And he was, and still is, one of the close colleagues with Professor Friston. You see what I mean? Like, that's the kind of networking that you need. Of course, it's not like, okay, this person knows you, so they're going to accept you. It's not like that. You have to prove yourself. It's not going to be easy, but at the very least, you're going to be connected to experts, right? So if you have questions in that area, you're not only limited to amazing environment that you have in your own university, but you can have access to amazing places outside your university, people outside your circle of colleagues that could maybe give you more information about the problem that you're dealing with, right? So being well connected is very important, and you never know where it could take you. I could have never dreamt in a million years that I will move to Melbourne, Australia. I'll be working on the intersection of neuroscience and machine learning. I could have never dreamt of that. But it was through my effort of sort of connecting to more experts. And it started with Professor Friston, and now here I am working with Dr. Adil Razi on this amazing project. By the way, this project is I've got it through this grant proposal that I wrote, Mary Curie grant proposal that I won. And going back to my original point, you need to learn how to write grant proposals. That's very important. And look what happened. Through a grant proposal, I moved to a different continent. This is what I mean. By the way, this is my third attempt to write a grant proposal. The first two were rejected. So exactly like paper writing. It's the same bloody curse. You have to keep at it until you get accepted. And now I'm connected to all of these amazing teams across the world, amazing colleagues, amazing experts around the world. This could have never happened had I not tried to sort of broaden my network. So it's the same thing that I'm wishing for you. Okay, try to broaden your network. Try to get connected to more and more experts around the world. You never know where it could take you. Okay. Now, in the meantime, if you have questions, feel free to put it in the chat. I'm gonna talk about the last sort of item on my list, which is the question: what will you achieve after your postdoc? I'll keep an eye on the chat while talking about this. Right. You will learn more about academic life, what the life of a professor would look like. I never forget The first time that I saw the calendar, my supervisor's calendar, um, it was so shocking. It's like it was crazy. Like everything was filled up. All the time slots were filled up. So it was so busy, and I thought I was doing my postdoc, and I thought I was busy. When I looked at his, Google Calendar sheet, it was just crazy. So that just told me that that was a sort of sign that okay, Erhan, look, postdoc is just a sort of a glimpse of what it's going to be like when you become a professor, right? And that's the first thing. So if you're doing your postdoc, and I don't know you, but if I hear that you're doing your postdoc, it tells me immediately that some part of you is interested in academic life. So you're interested most likely to 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 become a lecturer or an assistant professor in the future, right? It's not 100%, but that's the general sort of sign of someone who's interested in academic life. You will learn multitasking and leading, right? Leading multiple tasks at the same time. Right. And for example, in the postdoc position that I had, I was sort of involved with academic institutions as well as industry. It was an amazing project where we were sort of collaborating with, let's say, it was IBM. Yeah, we were working with IBM. I learned a lot about the industry side of a machine learning or AI project, which was amazing. And you sort of learn how to deal with different aspects of a project in different sectors. That was that was something that wouldn't have happened in a PhD sort of experience. Generally speaking, there are some PhD positions where you sort of live in the sort of intersection of industry and academia, but I'm talking about the general picture here. You'll learn how to attract money towards grants. I know that it doesn't sound too pleasant to talk about like attracting money as an academic, but at the end of the day, university needs money to sort of push the boundaries of science. It needs money to hire researchers so they could do interesting research work, so that the university could not only sort of broaden the horizon of science, but also it could keep its own ranking in sort of global ranking system. So as a postdoc, you should learn how to do that through writing grant proposals and sort of evaluating what kind of grants are suitable for you, what kind of grants are out there, and so on and so forth. Next is make sure that you would ask your PI to give you supervision opportunities or even co-supervision opportunities, right? Um, so it could be supervising a PhD student. It could be supervising a master's student, doesn't really matter. If you have that under your belt, it can go a long way when you apply for, say a lecturership or an assistant professor position, right? Because one of the selection criteria is always how many students have you supervised, if any. So if you have something to say for that, it can set you apart from the rest of the candidates, and you'll most likely be invited for an interview where you can actually elaborate on how that supervision experience was like, what did you learn, and so on and so forth. And last but not least is you will learn how to lead a publication. So if like I would say insist on being the last author, because the last author is usually the person who leads who leads the work, not the actual publication process, but actually leads the actual research inside that paper, who's a supervisor. Usually if there are supervisors on the project, they will be the last authors, but you like depending on a project, there could be situations where you might uh, like unanimously agree that okay, you should be the last author. There could be situations, but I mean it's not common, but it might be the case. Um, but my point is, if you're, let's say, leading some PhD students or some master students, you all could actually collectively write a paper. In that case, you could be not the first author, or maybe some of the last authors, showing senior that I can't pronounce that word. Showing that you're a senior member, or one of the closest being close to being a senior members. That gives sort of a level of maturity to your academic level. Yeah, I would say these are the things that I wanted to talk about. These are the main, I swear to God, the main issues, the main sort of differences between a postdoc and a PhD. And I just want to go back to this last one again. It's postdoc is not just PhD plus admin work. If you're doing your postdoc like that, in my opinion, you're not doing it right. There are a lot of things you need to learn how to do in a postdoc life. Everything that I mentioned, that I discussed today, that you definitely need to take advantage of and learn how to do before the end of your postdoc. Okay, so that was it, guys. Please, if the content was useful for you, please give a thumbs up to the video. That goes a long way for the algorithm to actually recommend the video to more people who might be interested in this content. In the meantime, if you're interested in the content that is provided to you through, via MLDon, feel free to subscribe to the channel. I always enjoy, sharing the new ideas with new subscribers and new people. And yeah, Zainab Nazari. Hi, is it possible to balance life and work in academia in your point of view? I would say it is possible, but it's really personal. It's a personal experience. Um, sometimes, sometimes, like even the same story with PhDs, you have a close deadline that you might have to temporarily sacrifice some parts of your personal life, or some of your, let's say, hobbies. Maybe sacrifice a weekend to actually make sure that you will meet the deadline for, let's say, for a paper or a grant or something. But I would say it is definitely not only possible, but also desirable to have work-life balance. It's the same story that I always share with PhD students. Make sure you will not work on weekends. That's absolutely crucial. And make sure you will not work after hours. Like, your sleep is very important. If you can actually commit to this discipline, you will have a far more enjoyable experience in your postdoc compared to someone who's just working and working and working. They will burn out. Let's not forget that if you're doing your postdoc, it means you have already experienced PhD. And if you're here, it tells me that most likely you're either doing your PhD or you finish your PhD. So you're very well aware of the pressure and the burnout that a PhD student would usually experiences during the 4 years of focusing on their thesis. So you're already sort of almost burned out. So you don't want to put yourself through more sort of pressure, unnecessary pressure. Having that discipline, I would say, is yes, possible, desirable, and if you really want it, you can do it. Yes, that's my point of view, Zainab. So while I'm waiting for more questions, guys, if you could give a thumbs up or a like to the video, I would really appreciate it. Also, please do share the video with people who you think might be interested in this topic, because this is really helpful. These are the things that I wish I knew. I wish I was told these things early on during my postdoc. I wish I had done the research to learn about all of these things, because these could be lifesavers for your future. Zainab is also asking, any advice for someone who is new in ML area but wants to do good research? I mean, nothing magical, really. You just, I don't know what to say. It's like you have to just keep working at it, right? You have to just study more and gain more knowledge about it. The fact that you're here now, it tells me that most likely you're a subscriber to MLDon. Like, MLDon is one example of a resource for machine learning. If you have subscribed, or if you follow the content, it tells me that you're someone who wants to learn more. So looking for resources. I'm not promoting MLDon. I'm just saying, look for resources. and keep reading, keep watching YouTube videos, keep reading books to sort of build a foundation. So what I would say is read books to build a strong foundation for your machine learning journey. Watch videos like the ones from MIT is pretty good. Yeah, like there. It's amazing that you can sit at the comfort of your home and watch videos from one like the top university in the world. Also, I would say study articles, papers, academic papers, because like what's the difference between papers and books? Books build your foundation, whereas papers would um, introduce you to new ideas, novel ideas in the area of machine learning that is happening in the world, right? So it's like you're sort of exploring both sides of the spectrum, the basics and foundation, and novel ideas and what's happening in the world. Yeah, just put lay your hands on whatever resource that you can find, and have discipline in studying. And believe it or not, I mean, you will eventually know what you're talking about. You will learn about machine learning, and you'll know what you want to work on. There's nothing magical there. I mean, like if you want to be successful in anything, that's the typical thing that you need to do. Sorry, I couldn't give you a wiser sort of response, but that's what I think anyway. Um, yeah, so I'll be waiting for more questions, if there are any. In the meantime, right. So if there are no questions, I might I might close the session. Thanks to anyone who has liked the video. That would help me a lot, especially with the algorithm. Okay. Thank you, Zainab. Thank you, Alireza. Thank you, AI to you, and thanks to anyone else who joined the session. And I hope that whoever joined the live session and whoever is watching this offline now has a better idea about what postdoc means and whether that is the right choice for you. Okay? Thank you very much for watching, and if you like the content of this video, please give me a thumbs up. It goes a long way with the algorithm. Also, subscribe to the channel if you find the content useful. And yeah, on behalf of Ameldan, take good care of yourselves. See you in the next one.